Welcome back. Let's check GameStop again. Appears to be halted with a 27% gain. As mentioned, it's happened a couple times already. All of this after Keith Gill, a.k.a. Roaring Kitty, has announced a live stream tomorrow that brings his apparent position, by the way, to an on-paper value of over $200 million in the stock, the majority from his massive June 21st call options. Our next guest says hitting the 40 level on the stock, we are there right now. We're at 40.18, could drive a short squeeze. She just took a position a few moments ago. Let's bring in Danielle Shay. She's vice president of options at Simpler Trading. This is like Hollywood drama in stock trading, Danielle. So what's running through your mind here?
Kelly, this is absolute craziness. And I just want to point out that I'm definitely not taking a position because of Roaring Kitty. However, he has started a short squeeze. The stock has 25% short float and it has earnings next week. It's very common that you'll see short sellers buying to cover before this earnings report, and it has a high volume breakout move. So for that reason, I like to trade along and follow along.
So in other words, you think he's now going to drive the stock much higher and you're along for the ride?
Yes, that's correct. And I will just point out that this is a typical pattern that will happen in this stock before earnings anyways. So I think that he's just added a lot of fuel to this fire.
But how do you know? Okay, so I don't know what price exactly you got in or whatever, but how do you know when to get out? Because if it were me trying to jump on the ship at home, maybe I could jump on right at $10 higher. But how do I know when to get off?
So you just have to decide if you're a swing trader or a day trader. If you're a day trader, you're going to be using a shorter time frame chart, perhaps a 15, maybe a 5-minute chart. And then you'd look for a break of the low of the high bar, and you'd look for a loss of momentum and a loss of high volume. However, if you're a swing trader, you'd be using a little bit higher of a time frame chart, perhaps a 30-minute or a 60-minute chart, and you'd look for that same pattern. For me personally, with a short squeeze trade, I like to see the stock going out on the highs of the day on high volume, because typically in that instance, it means it's going to gap up the next morning.
We're at 40 now. You were kind of looking at that level to kind of say the squeeze is on. I mean,
yes, that's correct.
Could it double from here? Are we talking about it's going to hit $100 again, or is everything a little bit more muted this time around, or don't we know yet?
In this kind of trade, I don't like to make predictions like that, $100 a share. What I like to do is trade it from one level to the next. So because we've just broken the recent previous high, I'm looking for the next Fibonacci extension targets and the next high open interest value, which is going to be around $50 a share. However, as I note, if it does lose momentum, you're not going to make the $50 price target. So you just take what you can get with this momentum move.
I'm really curious to see what's going to happen here on June 21st. I know everybody is. I guess the questions are, can he afford to buy all of the stock he could potentially buy? And quite a lucrative, I mean, it's going to be a lucrative trade, right, depending on how this pans out. But it's a huge amount of money to have to put up. And so we spoke with Chris Murphy over at Susquehanna about this the other day, who's talking about how we could kind of short the stock at the same time and only have to buy. This is above my sophistication level. But what are some of the strategies you're going to be watching for that you think he or others might be employing here in the next, 10 or so days?
Well, Kelly, I have to say that I'm very suspicious of that actual options expiration date, because if you look at GameStop, it just doesn't make any sense. If you look at the last 4 quarters, for example, GameStop has traded lower 3 out of the last 4 quarters post earnings. And so I don't want to hold this position through earnings at all. I'm just looking at a trade for the next 3-4 days, because they're reporting earnings on Tuesday. And so I don't think it's a good idea to be holding this massive position after that earnings report. And it's not something that I would recommend for me or any of my traders.
That is super, super interesting. Any parting thoughts on this one before we go?
Well, I think that this entire thing has been incredibly entertaining, right? And I know that people like to get involved. I have people asking me nonstop how you can get into GameStop. With this stock, you can trade those out of the money calls, but just be careful, because this is a stock that is being highly manipulated by an influencer online. So you can only risk what you can afford to lose.
Yeah, aren't those wise words for all of this. Danielle, we'll leave it there. We'll check back in soon. Thanks for your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Danielle Shay with Simpler Trading. That does it for The Exchange. Tyler is getting ready for Power Lunch, and we will pick things up on the other side of this break. Don't go anywhere.